Chosen one, why can't you sleep anymore? Why does 3 a.m. feel like an appointment you didn't schedule but somehow can't miss? Why have you been checking your bank account with one hand and praying with the other, knowing that what you need isn't coming from what you can see? Stop, right there. This isn't coincidence. Heaven is trying to get your attention, and what I'm about to tell you in the next 7 minutes will either confirm what your spirit has been whispering, or shatter everything you thought you knew about your financial future. Listen to me carefully. Sudden wealth is coming to the chosen ones, not lottery wealth, not hustle and grind wealth, not the kind the world chases with blood and sweat. I'm talking about kingdom wealth, restoration wealth, the kind that shows up unannounced, unexplained, and undeniable, like manna falling from a sky that wasn't even cloudy. But here's what most believers miss. Before God releases wealth, He releases warning, then instruction, then confirmation. You're in the warning phase right now. That restlessness, that's the alarm. That stirring in your chest, that's heaven clearing its throat. I know you've been overlooked, beloved. I know life took more from you than you ever agreed to give. You've tithed when your account was empty. You've sowed when your soil was dry. You've given so much and gotten so little in return. The world calls that foolishness, but God calls it qualification. You are not broke by accident. You are positioned by appointment. And what's about to be released over your life will make up for every year the locusts have eaten. Before we go deeper, I want to pause and thank every single one of you who has supported this message through Super Thanks. Your generosity means more than you know. You're not just donating, you're helping spread light to others who feel alone in their calling. Whether you give or not, I'm deeply grateful for your presence here. Your support, your time, your attention, it all matters. And if this message resonates with your soul, go ahead and let the Spirit lead. But right now, I need you to do something. Type, "I'm ready" in the comments. Not for me, for heaven. Let the angels see your agreement. Let the enemy see your defiance. Let God see your faith activated before the evidence arrives. Because here's the twist that's going to wreck you. Sudden wealth is not money alone. It is everything the enemy stole being returned at once. Your peace, your health, your relationships, your dignity, your voice, all of it, compressed into one explosive season of vindication. And in just a moment, I'm going to tell you, the one sign, the undeniable sign that confirms this prophecy is marked with your name. But first, you need to understand why you've been kept waiting this long. How many decades have you been carrying weight that wasn't meant to crush you, but to strengthen you? How many times have you whispered in the dark, "God, why does everyone else's breakthrough come easy, but mine feels like climbing Everest in the snow with bare feet"? How long have you been wondering if your faithfulness even matters anymore? Listen to me, beloved. What you've been calling delay, heaven has been calling preparation, and the difference between those two words will determine whether you recognize your moment when it arrives. You didn't just survive life. You survived lifetimes of storms compressed into one existence. The financial collapse of 2008 that wiped out your retirement, the betrayal that came from the person who slept next to you for 30 years, the children you raised who now act like strangers with your last name, the diagnosis the doctor delivered with clinical coldness while your whole world shattered, the job you gave 43 years to that let you go with a handshake and a plastic plaque. I see you, God sees you, and every single tear has been recorded. You know what breaks my heart? It's when I meet someone in their 70s or 80s who whispers, "I think I missed it. I think my time came and went, and I was too broken to notice." But that's the enemy's greatest lie, because what looks like missed opportunity to human eyes is often divine positioning to heaven's strategy. Think about Joseph, 17 years old when God gave him the dream, 30 years old when he stepped into the palace, 13 years between the promise and the manifestation, 13 years, and what filled those years? A pit, slavery, false accusation, prison, forgotten by the very people he helped. Can you imagine lying on that cold prison floor at 29 years old, wondering if you imagined the whole thing, wondering if God's voice was just youthful delusion? But here's what Joseph couldn't see from his cell. Every betrayal was building his character. Every year of waiting was developing the wisdom he'd need to save nations. Genesis 50:20 says it perfectly. You intended to harm me, but God intended it for good to accomplish what is now being done, the saving of many lives. Your harm had a purpose too. Look at Job. The Bible calls him blameless and upright, perfect before God. And yet, everything was stripped away. His wealth gone, his children dead, his health destroyed. His wife told him to curse God and die. His friends accused him of secret sin. But Job 42:10 reveals the mystery. After Job had prayed for his friends, the Lord restored his fortunes and gave him twice as much as he had before. Twice as much, not barely enough, not just restoration, double portion. You've been living Job's story, and you're about to step into Job's ending. Or consider Abraham. 75 years old when God promised him nations would come from his seed. 100 years old when Isaac was born. 25 years of waiting. A quarter century watching Sarah's womb stay barren while God's promise echoed in his memory. Can you feel that kind of patience? That kind of faith that doesn't make sense? But Hebrews 6:15 tells us, and so after waiting patiently, Abraham received what was promised. After waiting patiently, not after complaining, not after giving up, after waiting with faith intact. And then there's Ruth, a widow, a foreigner, gleaning leftover grain in fields that didn't belong to her, surviving on scraps while carrying the weight of her mother-in-law's grief and her own shattered dreams. Society saw a nobody, but God saw a somebody, the great-grandmother of King David, the bloodline of Jesus himself. Ruth 2:12 records Boaz's blessing over her. May the Lord repay you for what you have done. May you be richly rewarded by the Lord, the God of Israel, under whose wings you have come to take refuge. Richly rewarded, not barely compensated. Richly. You see, beloved, you weren't buried in those seasons of darkness, you were planted. And there's a massive difference. When something is buried, it's meant to stay hidden forever. But when something is planted, it's preparing to emerge with power. Every storm taught you dependence. Every disappointment taught you discernment. Every betrayal taught you who to trust. Every year of sacrifice was downloading kingdom wisdom into your spirit that money can't buy and degrees can't grant. Your waiting wasn't punishment, it was preparation for sudden release. Because God doesn't just give you wealth, He prepares you to steward it. He doesn't just open doors, He builds the character you'll need to walk through them without losing yourself. He doesn't just promote you, He makes sure you're ready for the assignment that comes with the elevation. Right now, type, "I'm still standing," in the comments. Not for me, for the warrior next to you who's about to give up. Let them see they're not alone in this battle. You've been in the furnace long enough. The refining is almost complete. And what's about to be released will leave the world asking the same question Pharaoh asked about Joseph. Can we find anyone like this man, one in whom is the Spirit of God? But here's what you need to understand about sudden wealth before it arrives. You want to know why you can't let go of what they did to you. Why that betrayal from 15 years ago still burns in your chest like it happened yesterday. Why you wake up some mornings and the first thought that hits you is the injustice of it all. Because your soul knows something your mind keeps trying to forget. You were wronged, and heaven has been keeping score. Listen to me, chosen one. There's a room in eternity that most preachers won't tell you about. It's not the throne room. It's not the streets of gold. It's the hall of records. And in that hall, there's a file with your name on it. Not a thin file, a thick one. Pages and pages documenting every single moment when life took more than it gave. Every tear you cried in secret, God collected it. Psalm 56:8 says, You keep track of all my sorrows. You have collected all my tears in your bottle. You have recorded each one in your book. Did you catch that? Collected, recorded, not forgotten, not dismissed, documented. Heaven keeps receipts. That family member who took advantage of your kindness for 20 years, documented. That boss who passed you over for promotion after promotion while you carried the whole department on your back, recorded. Those decades you spent caregiving, changing diapers, managing medications, sacrificing your own dreams so someone else could have dignity in their final years. Every single hour is written in golden ink. You think nobody noticed? God noticed. You think it didn't matter? It mattered to Him. But here's where it gets deeper. Here's where the mystery unfolds. Most people think heaven's accounting system works like Earth's you give, you get, you sow, you reap, simple transaction. But that's not how the divine ledger operates. God doesn't just balance accounts. He settles them with interest. When the children of Israel were enslaved in Egypt for 400 years, do you think God just freed them and said, "Okay, you're even now"? No. Exodus 12:36 tells us, "The Lord had made the Egyptians favorably disposed toward the people, and they gave them whatever they asked for, so they plundered the Egyptians. They didn't leave broke. They left loaded. Back pay for 4 centuries of stolen labor." That's how heaven operates. Restoration plus compensation. You've been carrying financial strain so long, you think it's your permanent address. You've been stretching dollars until they scream, rationing your groceries, choosing between medications and electricity bills. You've tithed on disability checks. You've given offerings from Social Security that should have gone to your own needs. And every single time, heaven stamped your file, qualified for reimbursement. Some of you don't know this, but your file in heaven is full. It's overflowing. The angels who manage these records have been watching the pages stack up year after year, and they've been waiting for the divine signal. The moment when the judge rises from his seat and declares, "Enough, it's time to settle this account." That moment is now. You need to understand something about kingdom economics that will shatter everything you thought you knew about wealth. When God decides to balance your ledger, He doesn't just restore what was stolen. He pays interest on the delay. Compound interest, exponential increase. Joel 2:25 promises, "I will repay you for the years the locusts have eaten," not replace, repay with dividend. But here's what breaks my heart. Here's what keeps me up at night praying for people just like you. You've been abused by prosperity preaching for so long that when I talk about sudden wealth, part of you shuts down. Part of you says, "Here we go again. Another preacher selling me a dream," and I understand that. I understand why you're skeptical. But this isn't about seed faith gimmicks. This isn't about sowing $1,000 you don't have to reap $1 million you won't see. This is about divine justice. This is about a righteous God who cannot lie, who keeps meticulous records, and who has declared in His word that He is a God of recompense. The same God who made the Egyptians pay up is the same God who's about to make your situation pay you back. The same God who restored Job's losses double is the same God reviewing your file right now. And when heaven balances your account, it doesn't just write a check. It restructures your entire financial destiny. I need you to do something right now. Share this message with someone who's been battling silently, someone who's given and gotten nothing but heartache in return. They need this part. They need to know their tears weren't wasted. Because here's the prophecy that's going to wreck you. When heaven balances your account, it pays interest, and the longer the delay, the greater the return. Your 70 years of faithfulness, your 80 years of staying true when others fell away, that's not just time passed, that's interest accumulated. The question burning in the throne room right now isn't whether you deserve restoration. That was settled the moment God saw your tears. The question is, are you ready to receive what decades of divine accounting has calculated as rightfully yours? Because what's coming isn't just money, beloved. What's coming is vindication wrapped in provision, justice packaged as blessing. Everything the enemy stole, multiplied, and returned. But before heaven can release what it's prepared, you need to understand why the wealth has been delayed this long. Now listen to me carefully, because what I'm about to reveal will shatter every lie the prosperity preachers ever told you and every doubt the devil ever whispered in your ear. You've been taught that wealth comes gradually, that if you work hard enough, save smart enough, hustle long enough, maybe, just maybe, you'll get ahead. But that's the world system, beloved. That's not how God moves with his chosen ones. Turn with me to Proverbs 13:22. Let these words settle deep in your spirit. The wealth of the wicked is laid up for the righteous. Did you catch that? Laid up. Not being created, not being earned. Already stored, already allocated, already assigned to you with your name written on it in heaven's ledger. While you've been struggling, scraping, wondering if God sees your faithfulness, the enemy has been hoarding what was never his to keep. But here's what breaks my heart. Here's what keeps me up at night praying for God's people. You've been conditioned to feel guilty about receiving wealth. You've been taught that poverty equals piety. That struggle somehow makes you more spiritual. That, if you're blessed financially, you must have compromised somewhere. That is a lie straight from the pit of hell. God does not release wealth gradually to his chosen ones. He releases it suddenly. Why? Because gradual accumulation can be intercepted. Slow growth can be sabotaged. Little by little, increase gives the enemy time to strategize, to steal, to redirect what was meant for you. But sudden wealth, sudden abundance, when God moves like lightning, when provision shows up overnight, hell doesn't have time to react. The transfer happens so fast that by the time darkness realizes what occurred, it's already done. Think about this. When the tide rises in New York Harbor, does it ask permission? Does it trickle in one wave at a time, politely checking if the boats are ready? No. When that tide comes in, it lifts everything at once. Every vessel, every boat, every ship. What was stuck in the mud suddenly floats. What was grounded suddenly sails. That's your wealth coming, chosen one. But I need you to understand something that's going to heal wounds you didn't even know you were carrying. This wealth God is releasing over your life, it's not just about money. It's about dignity. It's about restoration. It's about the justice you've been crying out for at 3 a.m. when nobody else was listening. How many times have you sat at that kitchen table, calculator in hand, tears on your face, wondering how you're going to make it through another month? How many times have you watched your children go without while you pretended everything was fine? How many times have you chosen between medicine and groceries, heat and electricity, pride and survival? God saw every single moment. He counted every tear. He recorded every sacrifice. And he's been waiting, not because he's slow, not because he's forgotten, but because he's been preparing a blessing so massive that if it had come any sooner, you wouldn't have had the capacity to contain it. This sudden wealth is your family's future changing in real time. This is generational curses breaking in a single season. This is your grandchildren never knowing the poverty you knew. This is legacy. This is healing wrapped in provision. I'm not talking about you getting rich so you can buy a bigger house and forget where you came from. I'm talking about God elevating you so you can elevate others. I'm talking about wealth that flows through you, not just to you. I'm talking about becoming the answer to someone else's desperate prayer. But here's where it gets prophetic. Here's where heaven's timing becomes clear. Not someday. Not eventually. Not if you're lucky. Not when the economy improves. Not when you figure it all out. Suddenly, like Joseph going from prison to palace in one day. Suddenly, like Ruth going from gleaning leftover grain to owning the entire harvest. Suddenly, like the widow's oil that multiplied until every vessel overflowed. Suddenly, like Job, receiving double what the enemy stole. The Bible is filled with sudden transfers because that's how God operates when he's ready to vindicate his chosen ones. Right now, type "I receive sudden abundance" in the comments. This isn't positive thinking. This is prophetic alignment. This is you agreeing with what heaven has already decreed over your life. Because here's the revelation that's going to change everything you thought you knew about your financial future. You're not stepping into wealth, beloved. Wealth is chasing you. Everything the enemy stole, it's been accumulating interest. Every door that closed unjustly, it redirected you toward a bigger opening. Every betrayal that left you, broke it, qualified you for a blessing that doesn't require their permission. God has been setting you up for a collision with abundance, and the impact is about to leave this world speechless. But if sudden wealth is really coming, why does it feel like you're still stuck? Why hasn't it shown up yet? Because there's something you need to understand about preparation before manifestation. Now listen carefully, because what I'm about to reveal will explain everything you've been experiencing and you thought you were losing your mind. There are 7 signs that heaven stamps on the chosen before sudden wealth arrives. Not all believers see these signs. Not all faithful people experience them. These are reserved for the remnant, the ones God has marked for financial vindication. And if even 3 of these signs match your story, you need to pay very close attention to what comes next. Sign number 1, isolation seasons. Have you noticed that people have been pulling away from you? Friends who used to call don't call anymore. Family members who used to visit find reasons to stay distant. Invitations dry up. Your phone gets quieter, and you find yourself alone more than you've ever been in your life. You thought something was wrong with you. You thought maybe you offended someone. Maybe you're too old now. Maybe people just don't care anymore. But what if I told you that God isolates what He's about to elevate? What if I told you that before He pours out public blessing, He requires private preparation? Moses spent 40 years alone in the wilderness before he led millions. David hid in caves before he sat on a throne. Jesus himself withdrew to lonely places before he performed his greatest miracles. Your isolation wasn't rejection, beloved. It was divine protection. God has been hiding you from distractions, from dream killers, from people who would contaminate what He's about to release. This is not coincidence. This is confirmation. Sign number 2. Doors closing unexpectedly. Jobs you were qualified for rejected. Opportunities that seemed perfect disappeared. Doors you knocked on with faith slammed shut in your face. And you stood there thinking, God, what am I doing wrong? But Proverbs 16:9 says, a man's heart plans his way, but the Lord directs his steps. Every door God closed was protecting you from a pathway that would have delayed your destiny. That job that didn't work out, it would have exhausted you right before your wealth season. That business deal that fell through, it would have partnered you with people who'd steal your blessing. God's no is not punishment, it's precision. This is not coincidence, this is confirmation. Sign number 3, dreams increasing. Your sleep has become strange, hasn't it? Vivid dreams, prophetic images. You wake up at 2:47 a.m. with your heart pounding, and you can't explain why. Numbers keep repeating. You see doors opening in your dreams. You see yourself in places you've never been, doing things you've never done, holding resources you've never touched. Joel 2:28 declares, your old men shall dream dreams. God speaks in the night to those He's about to use in the day. Before He shifts your reality, He downloads the blueprint into your spirit. Those dreams aren't random, chosen one. They're previews. They're heaven's movie trailers for the feature film about to play in your actual life. This is not coincidence. This is confirmation. Sign number 4, sudden clarity. Something shifted recently, didn't it? You woke up one morning and suddenly you could see. Your purpose became clear. Your calling made sense. The confusion that plagued you for years just lifted, like someone turned on lights in a room you'd been stumbling through in darkness. That clarity is preparation. God is positioning your mind to receive what your circumstances haven't shown you yet. Before He changes your bank account, He changes your vision. Because sudden wealth in the hands of someone with old vision creates chaos. But sudden wealth in the hands of someone with kingdom clarity creates legacy. This is not coincidence. This is confirmation. Sign number 5, old desires dying. Here's where it gets deep. Things you used to care about don't move you anymore. People you used to chase don't interest you. Possessions you used to crave feel empty. The applause you used to need sounds hollow. You're experiencing a holy detachment. Why? Because God is removing your appetite for the temporary before He releases the eternal. He's killing your hunger for fool's gold before He deposits real gold. Matthew 6:21 says, "Where your treasure is, there your heart will be also." Your heart is being relocated from earth's economy to heaven's treasury. This is not coincidence. This is confirmation. Sign number 6, random favor. Strangers are being kind to you for no reason. People you barely know are offering help you didn't ask for. Discounts appear. Bills get reduced. Someone pays for your groceries out of nowhere. Small miracles keep happening, and you can't explain them. That's not luck, beloved. That's prophetic favor. Before God releases the tsunami, He sends ripples. Before the flood, He sends drops. Those random acts of kindness are heaven's way of saying, "We're warming up. The main event is coming." This is not coincidence. This is confirmation. Sign number 7, internal stillness before breakthrough. This is the most misunderstood sign. Right now, you feel calm. Strangely calm. Even though your circumstances haven't changed, even though your bank account still looks the same, something inside you has settled. The panic is gone. The desperation has lifted. You're at peace in a storm that should be destroying you. That stillness is the silence before God speaks. That calm is the quiet before creation. Genesis 1-2 says, "The Spirit of God was hovering over the face of the waters," hovering, waiting, preparing to speak worlds into existence. Your inner peace isn't resignation, chosen one, it's readiness. This is not coincidence. This is confirmation. Now, if at least 3 of these signs matched your life, I need you to do something right now. Comment the number 777. Let heaven see your recognition. Let the algorithm know this message matters. Let other chosen ones find their tribe. But before you do, let me tell you about the hidden 8th sign, the one most people miss. The enemy attacked your finances hardest right before your breakthrough. You want to know why your finances have been under attack for decades? You want to know why every time you get ahead, something breaks down? Why every time breakthrough seems close, an emergency appears out of nowhere? Why it feels like there's an invisible hand reaching into your wallet, your mailbox, your peace of mind? Let me tell you something that's going to shake you to your core. The enemy doesn't waste ammunition on empty threats. Hell doesn't deploy its fiercest demons against people who pose no danger to the kingdom of darkness. But you've been in the crosshairs since the day you learned how to give. Because your heart is pure. Because your intention is righteous. Because even when you had nothing, you still blessed others. Listen to me carefully, chosen one. The devil attacks what he fears. And nothing, absolutely nothing, scares darkness more than a giving heart with divine resources. Satan knows something about you that you're just beginning to remember. When God puts money in your hands, you don't hoard it, you don't worship it, you don't build monuments to yourself. You fund the kingdom, you feed the hungry, you rescue the broken, you become a conduit of heaven's economy on earth. That terrifies hell. Think about this. Job was the wealthiest man in the East. The Bible says in Job 1-3, he had 7,000 sheep, 3,000 camels, 500 yoke of oxen, and 500 donkeys. But notice what it says right before that, in verse 1. This man was blameless and upright. He feared God and shunned evil. His wealth wasn't the problem. His character was the threat. Satan went straight to God and said, "Have you considered my servant Job?" The enemy knew that a righteous person with resources is a weapon he cannot compete with. So what did he do? He stripped everything, the wealth, the children, the health, But here's what hell didn't count on Job's foundation wasn't his fortune, it was his faith. And you, beloved, you're cut from the same cloth. This is why the bills strangled your joy for years. This is why medical debt piled up like stones on your chest. This is why family conflict erupted over money. This is why sudden emergencies appeared the moment you thought you could breathe. It wasn't bad luck. It wasn't poor planning. It was spiritual warfare designed to break your spirit before God could release your resources. But let me tell you what the enemy forgot. The reason it was so hard is because your breakthrough is so close. Hell doesn't fight finished battles. Demons don't waste energy on people who aren't about to step into something massive. The very intensity of the attack is proof, undeniable proof, that you're standing at the threshold of the greatest financial shift of your entire life. Look at what happened to the Israelites at the Red Sea. Exodus 14:10 says, "As Pharaoh approached, the Israelites looked up, and there were the Egyptians marching after them. They were trapped. Water in front, army behind. Humanly impossible. But God said in verse 13, "Do not be afraid. Stand firm, and you will see the deliverance the Lord will bring you today." The attack came right before the miracle. Your attack came right before your wealth. You think it's coincidence that right when you started seeking God more deeply, the car broke down? Right when you committed to tithing consistently, the medical bills arrived. Right when you declared you were done living in lack, the family drama exploded? No, chosen one, that's confirmation. The enemy only fights what he's about to lose. And he's about to lose his grip on your finances forever. But here's what you need to understand about spiritual warfare in the financial realm. 2 Corinthians 9-8 promises, "And God is able to bless you abundantly, so that in all things at all times, having all that you need, you will abound in every good work." Did you catch that? All things, all times, every good work. That's not prosperity gospel, that's kingdom economics. But the enemy knows that if you ever get financially free, you won't just pay your bills, you'll pay for someone else's healing. You won't just fix your car, you'll buy groceries for the widow down the street. You won't just save for retirement, you'll fund ministries, sponsor missionaries, build wells in villages you'll never visit. You become dangerous to darkness when you have both devotion and dollars. This is why the attack has been so vicious. This is why it's felt personal. Because it is personal. Hell has a file with your name on it, and that file says, keep them broke, keep them desperate, keep them so focused on survival that they forget their assignment. But that assignment is about to be activated. Say it out loud right now, wherever you are. The attack stops here. Say it again, the attack stops here. Because hell would not be fighting your finances this hard if heaven wasn't about to fund your purpose. The resistance you've faced is proportional to the resources you're about to receive. And what's coming isn't just enough to get by. It's overflow. It's abundance. It's wealth that makes no earthly sense but perfect kingdom sense. But before that wealth arrives, you need to understand something crucial. There's a specific preparation God requires before He releases sudden riches. And if you miss this next part, you'll get the money but lose the meaning. Chosen one, something has been decided concerning you. Not yesterday, not last week. Before the foundation of the world was laid, before the first star burned in the heavens, before your grandmother whispered her first prayer over your life, there was a conversation in the throne room about you. And tonight, that conversation is reaching its conclusion. I need you to understand what's happening in the invisible realm right now. Angels are moving. Not slowly, not cautiously. They're moving with urgency, carrying scrolls with your name written in letters that glow like fire. Principalities that have blocked your blessings for decades are being removed from their posts. Demonic assignments over your bank account, over your health, over your family line, they're being recalled. Heaven has issued new orders. There's a sealed envelope in the courts of God with your name on it. For years, maybe decades, it's been sitting there, waiting. And you know why it's been sealed? Because the timing wasn't right. Because you weren't ready. Because if God had released this wealth when you first prayed for it, it would have destroyed you instead of delivered you. But something shifted 3 days ago. Did you feel it? That strange heaviness in your chest? That unexplainable knowing that something was different? That wasn't anxiety, beloved. That was confirmation. The seal on that envelope just broke. And what's inside is about to flood your life with such overwhelming abundance that you'll fall to your knees wondering why you ever doubted. Listen to what the prophet Isaiah declared. No weapon formed against you shall prosper, and every tongue which rises against you in judgment you shall condemn. Isaiah 54:17. But here's what most people miss. That's not just protection, that's restitution. Every weapon that tried to bankrupt you failed. Every tongue that cursed your finances condemned. And now comes the restoration. Your season of financial suffering ends tonight. Not next year when the economy gets better, not when you finally get that promotion, not when your children start helping you. Tonight, this very hour. Because God doesn't operate on Wall Street time. He operates on Kairos time, the appointed time, the fullness of time, the moment when heaven and earth collide and the impossible becomes inevitable. But I need to ask you something that's going to cut deep. How many years have you been carrying shame about money? How many family gatherings have you avoided because you couldn't afford the gift? How many nights have you lain awake doing math that never adds up, subtracting bills from a social security check that barely covers rent? How many times have you looked at your grandchildren and wished you could give them what they deserve instead of apologizing for what you can't afford? God saw every single one of those moments. He counted every tear. He recorded every sacrifice. Psalm 56:8 says, He keeps your tears in a bottle. But what most preachers won't tell you is this: that bottle is about to be poured out as blessing. Every tear you cried over money is about to return as provision. Every prayer you whispered in desperation is about to be answered with abundance. You are not forgotten, beloved. You are marked, chosen, set apart for sudden, shocking, undeniable wealth that will make your enemies question everything they thought they knew about God's faithfulness. There's a widow in 2 Kings 4 who had nothing but a jar of oil. Nothing. Her husband was dead. Her creditors were coming to take her sons as slaves. She was finished. But the prophet Elisha asked her one question. What do you have in your house? And she said, nothing, except a little oil. That little oil multiplied until every vessel in her house overflowed. She didn't just pay her debts, she had enough left over to live on. One jar became a legacy. What do you have in your house right now? What small thing has God preserved through all these years of lack? Because that's the seed of your sudden wealth. It's not nothing, it's everything. And heaven is about to breathe on it. Put amen in the comments if you feel this in your spirit. Let me see who's ready to receive. Because here's the highest truth I can give you tonight. God is not just giving you wealth. He's giving you back the years you spent barely surviving, the years you spent watching others prosper while you struggled, the years the locusts ate, the years the enemy stole, the years that felt like punishment but were actually preparation. Joel 2:25 promises, I will restore to you the years that the locust has eaten, not some of the years, not a portion, all the years, with interest, with compound blessing, with overflow that makes up for every dry season. You're not getting a little bit of money, dear one. You're getting a generational wealth transfer. You're getting kingdom inheritance. You're getting everything the wicked stored up for themselves redirected into your account, because God said in Proverbs 13:22, the wealth of the sinner is stored up for the righteous. But if this is true, if sudden wealth is really coming, then why hasn't it happened yet? And more importantly, what do you need to do to position yourself to receive it when it arrives? You know what breaks my heart? It's not that you've been broke for decades, it's that you've been right for decades, and the world treated you like you were wrong. You gave when others grabbed. You stayed faithful when others faked it. You kept your integrity when selling out would have been easier, faster, more profitable. And what did that get you? A smaller house, a thinner wallet, a quieter voice at the family table. But chosen one, let me tell you something that's going to shake the dust off every disappointment you've ever buried. God doesn't forget. And He doesn't lose track of who owes you what. There's a principle woven into the fabric of Scripture that the prosperity preachers skip over because it's too dangerous, too disruptive, too absolutely devastating to the status quo. Jesus said it plainly in Matthew 20:16. So the last will be first, and the first will be last. The last will be first. Not eventually, not symbolically, not in some distant heavenly reward system that keeps you quiet and compliant down here. No, God is a God of reversal. He flips tables, He inverts kingdoms. He takes the stone the builders rejected and makes it the cornerstone. And right now, He's positioning you for the greatest reversal of your entire life. Think about it like a chessboard. You've been watching the enemy move his pieces for years, haven't you? He took your job and gave it to someone less qualified. He took your idea and handed the credit to someone more connected. He took your sacrifice and rewarded the person who did a fraction of what you did. You sat there, watching, feeling the sting, wondering if God was even paying attention. The enemy thought he had you cornered, thought he'd boxed you into irrelevance, thought your age, your isolation, your lack of platform meant checkmate. But here's what he didn't see. God's been setting up the board the whole time. Every piece the enemy moved against you was actually God positioning him for total defeat. Because in kingdom mathematics, delay isn't denial. It's set up for devastation. Divine devastation of every system that held you down. Let me get personal with you for a moment. How many times did people walk over you like you were a doormat with a heartbeat? How many family dinners did you sit through where your wisdom was dismissed, your sacrifice ignored, your presence tolerated but not celebrated? How many times did you give more love than you received, more effort than was recognized, more faith than seemed reasonable? You remember, don't you? You remember being the one who showed up, the one who prayed, the one who kept the family together when everyone else was ready to scatter, the one who worked 2 jobs so your kids could have what you never had, the one who smiled through the loneliness because complaining felt like betraying God. And what did the world give you in return? A participation trophy made of emptiness and a quiet room where your voice echoes off walls that know your tears better than most people know your name. But beloved, everything that pushed you down is about to elevate you now. Everything that overlooked you is about to seek you out. Everything that dismissed you is about to depend on you. This is the great reversal. And it's not coming because you earned it through perfect behavior. It's coming because God is a God of justice, and His justice doesn't operate on human timelines. It operates on kingdom precision. Look at Joseph. His own brothers threw him in a pit and sold him like livestock. Years later, those same brothers stood before him, not knowing who he was begging for the very grain he had authority to withhold. Genesis 50-20 records Joseph's revelation. You intended to harm me, but God intended it for good, to accomplish what is now being done, the saving of many lives. The reversal wasn't just personal, it was positional. Joseph didn't just get revenge, he got rulership. He didn't just survive, he became the solution. And the very people who tried to bury him ended up bowing before the authority God placed on his life. That's your story, chosen one. That's your next chapter. Look at Job. Everything stripped away. Health gone, wealth gone, family decimated, friends turned accusers. Sitting in ashes, scraping his sores with broken pottery, wondering if God had forgotten his address. But Job 42:10 tells us, after Job had prayed for his friends, the Lord restored his fortunes and gave him twice as much as he had before. Twice as much. Not the same, not a little more, double. The reversal came with multiplication. You're not stepping into a blessing, beloved. You're stepping into divine vindication. You're not just getting breakthrough, you're getting back pay for every year you suffered in silence. You're not just receiving favor, you're being positioned as the answer to someone else's crisis. and they won't even know how you got the authority to save them. The tables are turning. The script is flipping. The chessboard is about to reveal that every move the enemy made against you was actually God positioning you for checkmate. If this is landing in your spirit like lightning in dry ground, if something ancient and true is waking up in your chest right now, don't just scroll past this moment. Comment, "Reversal is coming," and let heaven mark your declaration. Let the enemy hear your faith. Let your future hear you calling it forward. Because what's coming next will explain exactly how this reversal shows up in your actual life. Chosen one, let me ask you something that's been burning in my chest for the last 48 hours. How long have you been waiting? No, I don't mean waiting like standing in line at the grocery store. I mean the kind of waiting that ages your soul, the kind that makes you wonder if God wrote your name down and then lost the paper, the kind that keeps you up at night, calculating how many years you've been faithful and how few you might have left. You've been praying the same prayer so long you can recite it in your sleep. You've been believing for breakthrough so hard that belief itself has become exhausting. And somewhere deep inside, in that secret place you don't even tell your pastor about, you've whispered the question that terrifies you most: did I miss it? Listen to me carefully. What I'm about to tell you will shatter that lie forever. There's a prophetic concept I need you to understand, something I call the second heaven traffic jam. Stay with me, because this is going to explain every delayed answer, every unanswered prayer, every promise that seemed to evaporate into thin air. When God speaks a blessing over your life, heaven moves immediately. The book of Daniel gives us a window into this reality. In Daniel 10:12, an angel appears to Daniel and says something extraordinary. "Do not be afraid, Daniel. Since the first day that you set your mind to gain understanding and to humble yourself before your God, your words were heard, and I have come in response to them." The first day, not the 21st day when the angel finally showed up. The first day God heard him. So, where was the angel for 3 weeks? Here's what the angel reveals next, and this should make your spirit stand at attention. "But the prince of the Persian kingdom resisted me 21 days. Then Michael, one of the chief princes, came to help me." Did you catch that? Daniel's answer left heaven immediately. But there was warfare in the invisible realm, spiritual resistance, a traffic jam in the second heaven where demons and principalities fight to delay, distort, or destroy what God has released. Your blessing didn't fail to launch, beloved. It's been fighting its way to you. For 21 days, Daniel had no idea a war was raging over his prayer. He just knew he was waiting, fasting, mourning, wondering if God was listening. Sound familiar? How many times have you stood in that same place, feeling forgotten, when heaven was actually in full combat mode on your behalf? But here's where it gets personal. Here's where this stops being ancient history and becomes your right now reality. What if the delay in your finances wasn't because you didn't have enough faith? What if the hold-up in your healing wasn't because of some hidden sin? What if the resistance you've been feeling wasn't God saying no, but hell saying not yet, because they know what happens when you finally get what's been promised? The enemy has been running interference on your blessing. He's been creating traffic jams, throwing up roadblocks, deploying every demon with a name to slow down what God released over your life years ago. Why? Because he knows something about your future that you're just beginning to remember. When your wealth arrives, kingdoms shift. When your breakthrough manifests, generations are liberated. When your suddenly hits, the enemy loses territory he's held in your bloodline for 100 years. So he's been stalling, delaying, distracting, keeping you just broke enough to stay worried, just sick enough to stay weakened, just isolated enough to stay silent. Because a chosen one with provision is a chosen one with power, and power in your hands is a nightmare in hell's strategy room. But Ephesians 6:12 pulls back the curtain. "For we do not wrestle against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against powers, against the rulers of the darkness of this age." The word wrestle in Greek is pale. It means hand-to-hand combat. Active, ongoing, present tense. You have been in a fight, beloved, and you didn't even know the enemy's name. It wasn't you. You didn't fail. You didn't miss God. You didn't pray wrong, or believe wrong, or sow wrong. Something has been fighting your blessing. And that something just ran out of time. Because here's what hell didn't count on. Here's the part that makes demons tremble and angels stand at attention. When God decides the delay is over, He doesn't send a memo. He sends Michael. He dispatches warring angels. He releases what the Bible calls the breaker anointing in Micah 2:13. The one who breaks open the way will go up before them. They will break through the gate and go out. Right now, in the invisible realm, the breaker is going before you. Every spiritual roadblock is being demolished. Every demonic traffic jam is being cleared. Every principality that's been holding your suddenly hostage is being served an eviction notice signed in the blood of Jesus. Say it out loud right now. Don't whisper it. Declare it. Enough. That's not just a word, chosen one. That's spiritual warfare. That's you agreeing with heaven's verdict. That's you announcing that the season of delay just expired. God has removed what blocked your blessing. And now, right now, nothing can stop the release. But here's the question that will determine everything. When sudden wealth crashes into your life like a flood breaking through a dam, will you even recognize it? You know what breaks my heart? It's when I meet someone in their 70s, their 80s, and they whisper to me, "Pastor, I think I missed it. I think my moment passed me by." But what if I told you something that's going to shatter that lie into 1,000 pieces? What if the reason you haven't received your blessing yet has nothing to do with you being late, and everything to do with you being chosen to carry what they couldn't? Listen to me carefully, chosen one. You are not just living your life. You are carrying prayers your grandparents prayed. You are holding blessings they never lived to see. You are the answer to intercessions that rose from kitchen tables in 1947, from factory floors in 1963, from hospital rooms in 1981. Your grandmother, do you remember her? The one who got on her knees every single night, worn out from scrubbing other people's floors, her hands cracked and bleeding, whispering, "Lord, let somebody in this family know abundance. Let somebody taste your goodness." She died waiting, but she didn't die wondering, because she knew, deep in her spirit, she knew someone was coming who would catch what she released. That someone is you. Deuteronomy 28:11 declares, "The Lord will grant you abundant prosperity." But here's what most people miss. That word grant in Hebrew means to overflow, to heap up, to give in such excess that you can't contain it. Your ancestors prayed for overflow. They sowed seeds in dry ground. They tithed from empty pockets. They believed for a harvest they would never personally reap. But you're standing in their field right now, and it's harvest season. Think about this. Your grandfather worked 43 years in that steel mill. 43 years of swing shifts and calloused hands and dreams deferred. He never owned his own home, never took that trip he talked about, never saw his bank account with more than 3 digits. But every Sunday, without fail, he put that envelope in the offering plate. Every single Sunday. Even when the bills were due, even when your grandmother said, "Baby, we can't afford this," and he'd say, "We can't afford not to." He was sowing into a future he couldn't see. He was planting trees whose shade he'd never sit under. He was investing in your suddenly. 2 Kings 13:22-1 tells us about a dead man who was thrown into Elisha's tomb. The moment that corpse touched the prophet's bones, the man came back to life. Do you understand what that means? There's power in what the dead left behind. There's resurrection anointing in ancestral faith. Your grandmother's prayers didn't die with her. They're bones of blessing, waiting for you to touch them. But here's where it gets controversial. Here's where some of you are going to squirm in your seats. Why you and not them? Why does the inheritance skip generations? Why did they pray and you prosper? Because God doesn't waste preparation. Your grandparents weren't qualified to carry what you're about to receive, Not because they weren't faithful, they were more faithful than most of us will ever be. But because the wealth God is releasing now requires a different kind of stewardship. It requires someone who's been through the wilderness and didn't lose their worship. Someone who's been in the furnace and didn't lose their faith. Someone who's been betrayed by the world and didn't become bitter toward God. That's you. You are holding the torch they passed but never saw lit. And now, right now, God is saying, it's time to strike the match. Your ancestors couldn't receive it because the timing wasn't right. But you can't reject it because the timing is now. You are the first in your bloodline to touch the fullness God intended. Not because you're better than them, but because you're built on their foundation. Psalm 112:2 says, their children will be mighty in the land. The generation of the upright will be blessed. Not might be blessed, will be blessed. It's already decided. It's already done. The only question is whether you'll step into it or step around it. Write, I carry their torch in the comments if your heart feels this. Let heaven see that you understand. Let your ancestors in glory know their prayers didn't fall on deaf ground. Let the enemy know that what he thought died with them is about to explode through you. Because, beloved, this isn't just about you getting a financial breakthrough. This is about spiritual justice. This is about God honoring the faith of those who sowed in tears so you could reap in joy. This is about generational vindication. And the wealth that's coming? It's not just for you to spend, it's for you to steward. It's not just for your comfort, it's for your commission. You're about to receive what they prayed for so you can do what they dreamed of. But here's what you need to understand before we go any further. This sudden wealth, it doesn't come to the unprepared. It comes to the positioned. And there are 3 signs, 3 undeniable signs that prove you're being positioned right now. The first sign? You're about to recognize it immediately. Now listen to me carefully, chosen one, because what I'm about to tell you will determine whether the wealth God is sending actually reaches your hands or gets stolen before it ever arrives. You see, the enemy doesn't just attack what you have, he attacks what's on its way to you. He ambushes blessings in transit. He sabotages miracles in motion. And right now, there's a delivery being prepared in heaven's treasury with your name written across it in golden letters. But between heaven's warehouse and your front door, there's a battlefield. Before God gives, he guards. And if you don't understand this principle, you'll watch your breakthrough walk right past your house and into someone else's life. Think about the Garden of Eden. After Adam and Eve sinned, what did God do? Genesis 3:24 tells us, he placed on the east side of the Garden of Eden cherubim and a flaming sword flashing back and forth to guard the way to the tree of life. God didn't just remove them from blessing, he stationed armed angels to protect what was sacred. Why? Because what's valuable requires violent protection. Your sudden wealth is that valuable, and the gate through which it must enter is under siege right now. Let me tell you about 3 enemies positioned at your gate, waiting to rob you before the wealth even arrives. These aren't demons in the shadows. These are assassins dressed like friends, counselors, even your own thoughts. The first enemy is doubt. Not the kind that asks questions, the kind that murders answers. It's that voice that whispers at 2 a.m. Who are you kidding? People like you don't get blessed like that. You've been waiting too long. God's forgotten about you. Doubt doesn't just make you question the promise, it makes you disqualify yourself from receiving it. And here's the psychological trap. The closer you get to breakthrough, the louder doubt screams. Why? Because the enemy knows what's coming and he's terrified. Doubt killed an entire generation in the wilderness. Numbers 13:33 records their fatal words. We seemed like grasshoppers in our own eyes, and we looked the same to them. They saw themselves as insects, so they died like insects, never entering the land of milk and honey that was already theirs. The wealth was waiting, the gate was open, but doubt stood at the entrance and said, "Not for you." Is doubt guarding your gate right now? Is it dressed up as being realistic or not getting your hopes up? That's not wisdom, beloved. That's a thief in disguise. The second enemy is wrong voices. People who mean well, but speak death. Family members who've never seen breakthrough, telling you what breakthrough looks like. Friends who are still in bondage, giving you advice about freedom. Proverbs 13:20 warns us, "Walk with the wise and become wise, for a companion of fools suffers harm." Wrong voices don't just give bad advice, they reprogram your expectations. They lower your ceiling. They convince you to settle for crumbs when God is backing up a truck full of bread. And here's what breaks my heart. Sometimes the wrong voice is the church itself. Religious people who've baptized poverty and called it piety. Leaders who preach lack as if it's holiness and struggle as if it's spirituality. But Jesus said in John 10:10, "I have come that they may have life and have it to the full, abundant, overflowing, not barely surviving." Who are you listening to, chosen one? Because the voices you allow at your gate determine what enters your life. Wrong voices will block right blessings every single time. The third enemy, and this one's the most dangerous because it's invisible, is spiritual exhaustion. You've been fighting so long you're tired. You've been waiting so long you're weary. You've been praying so long you're wondering if anyone's even listening. And in that exhaustion, you drop your guard. You stop decreeing. You stop declaring. You stop standing at your gate with spiritual authority, and you just sit down. But Isaiah 40:31 promises something supernatural. Those who hope in the Lord will renew their strength. They will soar on wings like eagles. They will run and not grow weary. They will walk and not be faint. Notice it doesn't say those who are perfect or those who have it all together. It says those who hope. Those who keep their eyes on the promise even when their bodies are screaming to quit. The enemy wants you exhausted at the exact moment your wealth arrives, because a tired gatekeeper is a useless gatekeeper. So here's what you need to understand. Your blessing must enter through a protected gate, and you are that gate. Your mind is the gate. Your mouth is the gate. Your faith is the gate. If those gates are unguarded, if doubt is standing there, if wrong voices have the keys, if exhaustion has you sleeping on duty, your wealth will be ambushed before it ever reaches you. Say it out loud right now. My gate is guarded. Say it like you mean it. Say it like you're putting the enemy on notice. Because the wealth coming toward you isn't just money, beloved. It's everything. Your peace, your health, your restored relationships, your vindicated name, your children's futures, your legacy. Your wealth is spiritual first. Money is only the echo. And when spiritual wealth arrives, it doesn't trickle in. It floods, it overwhelms, it transforms everything it touches, but only if the gate is ready. So the question that will determine your destiny is this. What's standing at your gate right now, angels or enemies? Chosen one, let me tell you about a moment that's coming. A moment so sacred, so undeniable, that when it arrives, you won't need anyone to tell you what just happened. You'll know. Your body will know. Your spirit will know. Even the walls of your house will know. There will come a moment soon when peace falls on your house like a warm blanket on a cold New York winter night. Not the kind of peace you manufacture with deep breathing or positive thinking. Not the kind you beg for at 3 a.m. when the bills are stacked on the kitchen table. I'm talking about the kind of peace that doesn't make sense. The kind that shows up uninvited and stays without explanation. And when it comes, beloved, you'll understand something profound. You were never waiting for money. You were waiting for visitation. Think about this with me. How many mornings have you woken up in that same bedroom, looked at that same ceiling, and whispered the same desperate prayer? How many nights have you sat alone in your living room, the TV flickering, the silence so heavy you could taste it, and wondered if God even remembered your address? But what if I told you that every single one of those lonely moments was preparation? What if the emptiness you felt wasn't abandonment, but clearing? God was making room, moving furniture in the spirit realm, repositioning things you couldn't see so that when His presence arrived, there would be space for it. You see, visitation requires vacancy. Before heaven can fill your house, it has to empty it. And for years now, maybe decades, God has been removing what doesn't belong. Toxic relationships that drained you, false securities that distracted you, even good things that weren't God things. He's been clearing the clutter so that when he shows up, you won't miss him. Listen to what happened in Acts chapter 2. The disciples were gathered in an upper room. Ordinary people, scared people, people who had watched their dreams die on a cross just weeks earlier. And then Scripture says, suddenly there came a sound from heaven as of a rushing mighty wind, and it filled all the house where they were sitting. Did you catch that? It didn't knock on the door. It didn't wait for permission. It filled the house. The same God who shook that upper room 2,000 years ago is about to shake your living room, your bedroom, your kitchen, where you've cried so many tears. But here's what breaks my heart. Some of you have been alone so long, you've started believing loneliness is your permanent address. You've accepted isolation as your identity. You've made peace with empty chairs at your dinner table, with phones that don't ring, with holidays that feel more like reminders than celebrations. Stop believing that lie right now. You haven't been alone. You've been accompanied. Every single moment you thought you were forgotten, there was a presence in that room with you. Not a feeling, not a concept, an actual, living, breathing presence of the Almighty God. Hebrews 13:5 says it plainly, I will never leave you nor forsake you. Not I'll try not to leave you. Not I'll leave you if you mess up too badly. Never. That's a promise sealed in blood, signed in sacrifice, guaranteed by the resurrection. And now, chosen one, that presence that's been with you in secret is about to manifest in public. What you felt in the dark is about to be confirmed in the light. What you've carried in whispers is about to be declared in thunder. I'm talking about a moment when light enters through every crack in your broken places. A moment when prayers you prayed 20 years ago suddenly echo back with answers. A moment when the atmosphere in your house shifts so dramatically that neighbors will ask what happened, and you won't have words to explain it because human language can't contain divine intervention. Type, "Visit me, Lord," in the comments if you're ready to welcome this moment. Don't be ashamed. Don't be timid. Heaven is watching for the ones who will say yes before the evidence arrives. Because here's what you need to understand. The same God who passed over doors in Exodus is about to step through yours. But in Exodus, it wasn't random. The Israelites had to mark their doorposts with blood. They had to prepare. They had to believe before they could see. And that's exactly what's happening right now. You're being prepared. This message isn't information, it's instruction. God is telling you to get ready because sudden wealth isn't just coming to bless you. It's coming to position you. It's coming to prove something to a watching world that's forgotten what happens when heaven invades earth. Your house, that place where you've suffered in silence, where you've prayed until your voice gave out, where you've believed when believing made no sense, is about to become ground zero for a financial miracle so profound that people will drive by just to see the house where God showed up. But visitation always comes with a choice. When heaven knocks, you can hide behind theology that says miracles are for other people. You can retreat into doubt that whispers you're too old, too broken, too ordinary. Or you can open the door. So let me ask you the question that will determine everything about what happens next. When the moment of visitation arrives, when peace that doesn't make sense settles on your shoulders, when provision shows up from sources you never applied to, when suddenly your latter days become greater than your former, will you recognize it as God, or will you explain it away as coincidence? Because chosen one, what's about to walk through your door isn't coincidence, it's covenant. And heaven is waiting to see if you're ready to receive it. Listen to me carefully, chosen one. Everything you thought you knew about wealth is about to be turned upside down, because what's coming to you isn't just for you. And if you miss this truth, you'll miss your entire assignment. You see, the enemy has been whispering a lie in your ear for decades. He's convinced you that if God ever blessed you financially, it would be so you could finally rest, finally exhale, finally stop worrying about bills and prescriptions and whether you can afford to help your grandchildren. And, yes, beloved, God does want to give you rest, but that's not the end of the story. That's just the beginning. Here's the revelation that's going to shake you. You're not being blessed so you can become a reservoir. You're being blessed so you can become a river. A reservoir holds, a river flows, a reservoir stores for itself. A river sustains everything it touches. And God is about to turn you into a living, breathing distribution center for kingdom wealth. You're not just blessed, you're entrusted. Do you understand the weight of that word? Entrusted. It means God looked at your heart, examined your character through 70, 80, 90 years of testing, and said, this one can handle abundance without losing their soul. This one can touch money without money touching them. This one will remember where it came from and what it's for. 2 Corinthians 9:11 declares, you will be enriched in every way so that you can be generous on every occasion. Did you catch that? Enriched for generosity, blessed to bless, increased so you can become an increase in someone else's impossible situation. But here's where most people stumble. They think kingdom economics works like the world system: scarcity, hoarding, fear-based saving. No, beloved, heaven operates on overflow, supernatural multiplication. Luke 6:38 promises, give, and it will be given to you. A good measure, pressed down, shaken together, and running over, will be poured into your lap. Running over, not just enough, not barely sufficient, running over. God is positioning you to fund ministries that can't get bank loans, to pay off medical bills for families who've lost hope, to send that single mother's kid to college, to be the answer to prayers that desperate people are whispering right now in hospital rooms and empty kitchens across America. Your life isn't winding down, it's widening. I know what you're thinking. But I'm retired. I'm supposed to be slowing down, not starting something new. That's exactly what the world wants you to believe, that your season of impact is over, that your years of influence have expired. But God doesn't retire his generals. He repositions them. You've got wisdom money can't buy. You've got credibility the young ones haven't earned yet. You've got a testimony that carries weight because you've got scars to prove it. And now God is adding resources to your resume so you can become a weapon of mass blessing. Think about it. What would happen in your community if one elder who loves Jesus suddenly had the ability to pay rent for struggling families, to stock food pantries, to fund after-school programs, to become a silent partner in miracles? You'd become dangerous to poverty, dangerous to lack, dangerous to every demonic system that's been holding your neighborhood hostage. Proverbs 13:22 says, the wealth of the sinner is stored up for the righteous. Stored up, past tense, it's already allocated, already assigned. And God is about to make the transfer. But he needs to know you won't just consume it. He needs to know you'll steward it, multiply it, release it. So let me ask you something that's going to cut deep. Can God trust you with overflow? Can he trust you to stay humble when your account gets heavy? Can he trust you to remember the widows and orphans when you're no longer one? Can he trust you to build his kingdom instead of your own empire? If your answer is yes, if something in your spirit is rising up right now saying, make me a vessel, then type those 3 words in the comments. Make me a vessel. Let heaven hear your surrender. Let the angels witness your availability. Because here's the truth that will wreck you. God doesn't trust everyone with wealth. Most people can't handle it. It either inflates their ego or isolates their heart. But you've been tested, you've been tried, you've been refined in fires that would have consumed weaker souls. God trusts you, and what he's about to release won't just change your life. It's going to change every life you touch. But first, you need to understand the one thing that could block this transfer, and it's not what you think. Beloved, chosen one, as we come to the close of this sacred moment together, I need you to hold 3 truths close to your heart. First, sudden wealth is not a fantasy, it's a covenant promise from a God who never forgets what he spoke over your life. What's coming isn't lottery, luck, or worldly hustle. It's kingdom restoration, divine compensation for every year the locusts have eaten. Remember this. You're not being blessed just to consume. You're being entrusted to distribute. Second, your age is not your disqualification, it's your advantage. At 70, 80, 90 years old, you carry wisdom that money can't buy and credibility that youth can't manufacture. God has been refining you in the furnace of faithfulness, and now He's about to resource you for your greatest season of impact. Your life isn't winding down, it's widening into overflow. Third, the delay wasn't denial, it was preparation. Every closed door protected you from premature blessing that would have destroyed you. Every season of lack taught you the character you'd need to steward abundance without losing your soul. But here's what I need you to understand with absolute certainty. You are not walking this journey alone. Even when it feels like God has gone silent, He's been working behind the scenes, repositioning pieces on the board of your destiny. He hasn't forgotten your address. He hasn't lost your file. He's been preparing a table before you in the presence of your enemies, and that table is about to be set. And beyond God's presence, you have this community, thousands of believers just like you, who understand the ache of waiting, who know what it feels like to trust God when the bank account says otherwise. We're here. We see you. We believe. With you. You're not alone in this. So let me ask you one final question, and let it settle deep in your spirit. If God has brought you through every valley, every storm, every season that tried to break you, why would He abandon you now at the threshold of your greatest breakthrough? Before I release you, I want to pray over your life, and I want you to receive this prayer like I'm standing right there with you, my hand on your shoulder, speaking directly into your situation. Heavenly Father, I come before your throne right now, carrying every person who has heard this message. Lord, you see them, you know their names. You've counted every tear they've cried in secret, every bill they've worried over, every night they've wondered if you still remembered them. Father, I pray that you would release sudden wealth over their lives, not just financial provision, but restoration of everything the enemy has stolen, their peace, their health, their relationships, their dignity. Let overflow become their new normal. God, give them wisdom to steward what you're about to release. Keep their hearts humble when their accounts get heavy. Help them remember the widows and orphans when they're no longer struggling. Make them rivers of blessing, not reservoirs of hoarding. Open doors that no man can shut. Bring divine connections that accelerate their purpose. Cancel every assignment of delay, poverty, and lack that's been operating in their bloodline. Break generational curses of financial struggle and establish generational blessings of supernatural provision. And Lord, until the manifestation comes, strengthen their faith. When doubt whispers, let your promises shout louder. When fear knocks, let hope answer the door. Remind them daily that they are chosen, they are loved, and they are not forgotten. In Jesus' mighty name, I seal this prayer. Amen. Now, beloved, I need to hear from you. Drop a comment below and tell me what God spoke to your heart today. Share your testimony if you've seen Him move in your finances. Ask for prayer if you're still waiting. This community will surround you. And please, if this message stirred something in your spirit, share it with someone who needs to hear it. There's a believer in your life right now who's about to give up on God's promises. Send them this video. Remind them they're not alone. If you haven't already, subscribe to this channel and hit that notification bell. We're building a family of faith here, and your presence matters. Thank you for staying with me through this entire journey. Thank you for opening your heart. Thank you for believing that your best days aren't behind you, they're ahead of you. The sudden wealth is coming, chosen one, and you're about to see why God made you wait. Until next time, walk in the overflow. You are loved, you are chosen, and you are never, ever alone. God bless you mightily.